On my 10th birthday, there was a party in my 4th grade classroom. Not really sure if it was for all the March birthdays or if I was just special. I don't know. All I know is I got presents. And I got one particular stuffed animal. This plushie in my little 10-year-old mind was the coolest ever. It was a fish. It was goldfish cracker in shape. And the cloth was so cool. It was lime green and white checked, the big checked cloth from the 70s. And across the side of the fish, in blue felt, were the letters P-I-S-C-E-S. When I got home, I told my mom about this fish I got and how it had the word pissies on the side of it. She kind of laughed and asked me to show her the fish. She corrected my pronunciation, and I had a new word in my vocabulary. I, as my mother explained, was a Pisces because my March 20th birthday fell under that astrological sign. Okay. And that was my first experience with the zodiac. Life went on. My little child life was full of more important things in this astrology. I had games to play with my friends, bike to ride, trees to climb, and this new fishy to love on. I was busy. I'd look at that word on the fish every once in a while, and I'd wonder, what is this Pisces thing? And what does it mean that I'm a Pisces? I'm 10. I don't really care. I went on with my childhood life. But life went on. And as I started to get older, I started meeting new people in junior high and high school, expanding my little childhood bubble. And astrology creeped its way back in. Some of my friends read their horoscopes religiously, so of course that reignited my curiosity. I was a Pisces after all. And I read mine too. I started learning more about it. I learned that Pisceans tend to be easygoing, romantic, chill. Yeah, I can see that in me. I learned that Pisces is a water sign. Well, no wonder I love to swim. Although it was never all that important to me, I still embraced the idea of Pisceans having specific traits that I identified with. Pisceans are dreamers. Check. Pisceans are romantic. Check. Pisceans are passionate. Check, check. And one drawback trait that I couldn't deny. Pisceans are notorious for not finishing projects they start. Oh yeah, I'm a Pisces. Okay, so I did manage to finish the project of my college degree. In fact, I was the first in my family to do so. Even my overachieving firstborn sister, to whom the rest of us were compared, couldn't claim that. However, I started my college career declaring my major to be Spanish, and I was going to be an interpreter at the UN. I graduated with a degree in speech communication. And by the time I was graduating, I had plans to enter the mission field, be a missionary. The pattern continued. A few years after college, I met this, according to my friends, cool guy Ontario. Sorry. His name was Antero. Ugh. At the time, this skinny guy in scraggly clothes, with his face hiding behind a mop of dark wavy hair that all fell in one length to his shoulders, was someone I would more describe as messy than cool. I had no idea this cool guy, Antero, would turn out to be my soulmate. Remember, I was on my way into the mission field, and nothing was going to stop me. Well, let's just say that plan changed when I learned my new mission was motherhood. Yeah. And Taro and I started our journey into parenthood with the lack of a marriage certificate. Yeah, another unfinished project. But we did complete it 11 years later. Did I mention he was a Pisces too? I often said there was no iron sharpening iron in our marriage. We were both big dreamers, but we often struggled to take action on some of our dreams. Heck, even our house was a story of unfinished projects. Lots of love, lots of romantic ideation, lots of passion, but things didn't always get done. We started to replace the flooring in our house 22 years ago. To this day, those floors remain unfinished. And you have to be really careful when you go through my house, because if you hit that one plank right, you're just going to go surfing. It's not going to be pleasant. But we did start 2 projects we completed. Well, sort of. Our children. They're both grown now. And at least he got 2. See, the first one married, and the youngest graduated high school before his soul moved into the 8th house, astrologically speaking. But that's a story for another time. But I will say that as far as I'm concerned, our relationship is an unfinished project. We had so many dreams of things that we wanted to do together. So yeah, I was, and he was, a Pisces through and through. But really, it wasn't all that important. I did embrace myself as a Pisces, but it didn't matter to me. Pretty sure it mattered even less to him. Until about 6 or 7 years ago. My eldest, my Vashti. I love that progeny of mine with all my heart and more than life. And that kid of mine could not be satisfied with changing my identity once when they made me a mom. No. They had to go and do it again. It all started when they came home for Christmas one year. They said, "Hey, Mom, let me do your natal chart." Natal chart, what's that? It's your astrological chart. We'll find out what your moon is and other stuff about you. Okay, sure, whatever, okay. So, of course, they knew my birthday, March 20th, the last day of Pisces. I was on the cusp. I knew this, and I knew that it might mean that I have some Aries traits. Vashti asked me other pertinent details about my birth, like where I was born and what time I was born. I was born at 11:28 a.m., and I was born in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Now, for those of you in the military, I need to clarify, my father was stationed there. So Vashti plugged all the information into whatever app they were using. Their eyes were on the screen. Then they looked at me with a look I can only describe as impish surprise. "Mom, you're an Aries." No, what? No, that's wrong. I'm a Pisces. I mean, I know I'm on the cusp, but are you sure you entered that information in right? "No, Mom, you're an Aries." "You're wrong." I was blown away. I just couldn't accept this. "But Vashti, I'm so very a Pisces. I have all the traits." I looked over at my husband. He just sat there laughing. He was absolutely no help. "This can't be right. Mom, relax. You have Pisces in your house or moon or whatever." I don't know. I couldn't process what they were saying. I was too busy being shocked. To this day, I cannot tell you why I reacted so vehemently in denial. For something I swore my whole life wasn't important to me, this news shook me to my core. I mean, my whole life I thought I was a Pisces, and this kid of mine is telling me now that I am an Aries? It was like my whole identity changed. A few years later, I met someone who knows astrology really well. I told her my story, and of course, she had to do my natal chart. Do you know what she told me? I'm an Aries. She told me I was born less than a minute into the Aries sun. In fact, she told me once that, "Beth, if you were born just seconds earlier, you would have been a Pisces." What? So now not only am I an Aries, But in true alignment with my new sign, I arrived late. Yeah, late to my own damn zodiac sign. And yet, really, what does it matter? Truth be told, I was and still am who I've always been. Why does this bother me? I guess I'm just going to chalk it up to my Aries side. I'm feisty. One of my husband's, my husband's very favorite trait of mine. All right, so let's see. I'm passionate. I'm feisty. I'm creative. I'm romantic. And while I do like adventure, I'm not always thrilled when change comes along. You know, like when you find out you're an Aries after a lifetime of being a Pisces. But I'm also quite capable of accepting change and also of choosing to wander right into it. That might explain my starts and stops in unfinished projects. But you know what? Unfinished projects can sometimes just be adventures on hold. And sometimes projects may seem unfinished when you're not ready for them to end. No matter what, though, as long as one is still breathing, life is one big unfinished project. And once it's complete, then it's on to the next big project.